This is a reading of a translation I did about 25 years ago at the request of a close friend who had found the booklet in Italian, but who didn't know how to speak Italian, so he asked me to translate it into English. So this is my translation of the book of a booklet written by an exorcist by the name of Don Tomaselli Giuseppe. The book begins with a scripture passage. It's chapter 2 of Wisdom. The vain reasonings of the wicked, they're persecuting the just, especially the Son of God. For they have said, reasoning with themselves, but not right. The time of our life is short and tedious, and in the end of a man there is no remedy, and no man hath been known to have returned from hell. For we are born of nothing, and after this we shall be as if we had not been. For the breath in our nostrils is smoke, and speech a spark to move our heart, which being put out, our body shall be ashes, and our spirit shall be poured abroad as soft air, and our life shall pass away as the trace of a cloud, and shall be dispersed as a mist, which is driven away by the beams of the sun, and overpowered with the heat thereof. And our name in time shall be forgotten, and no man shall have any remembrance of our works. For our time is as the passing of a shadow, and there is no going back of our end, for it is fast sealed, and no man returneth. Come, therefore, and let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily use the creatures as in youth. Let us fill ourselves with costly wine and ointments, and let not the flower of the time pass by us. Let us crown ourselves with roses before they be withered. Let no meadow escape our riot. Let none of us go without his part in luxury. Let us everywhere leave tokens of joy, for this is our portion, and this our lot. Let us oppress the poor, just man, and not spare the widow, nor honor the ancient gray hairs of the aged. But let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Let us therefore lie in wait for the just, because he is not for our turn, and he is contrary to our doings, and upbraideth us with transgressions of the law, and divulgeth against us the sins of our way of life. He boasteth that he hath knowledge of God, and calleth himself the Son of God. He is become a censurer of our thoughts. He is grievous unto us, even to behold, for his life is not like other men's, and his ways are very different. We are esteemed by him as triflers, and he abstaineth from our ways as from filthiness. And he preferreth the latter end of the just, and glorieth that he hath God for his Father. Let us see then if his words be true, and let us prove what shall happen to him, and we shall know what his end shall be. For if he be the true Son of God, he will defend him, and will deliver him from the hands of his enemies. Let us examine him by outrages and tortures, that we may know his meekness and try his patience. Let us condemn him to a most shameful death, for there shall be respect had unto him by his words. These things they thought, and were deceived, for their own malice blinded them. And they knew not the secrets of God, nor hoped for the wages of justice, nor esteemed the honor of holy souls. For God created man incorruptible, and to the image of his own likeness he made him. But by the envy of the devil, death came into the world, and they follow him that are of his side. Chapter 3. The happiness of the just, and the unhappiness of the wicked. But the souls of the just are in the hand of God, and the torment of death shall not touch them. In the sight of the unwise they seemed to die, and their departure was taken for misery, and their going away from us for utter destruction, but they are in peace. And though in the sight of men they suffered torments, their hope is full of immortality. Afflicted in few things, in many they shall be well rewarded, because God hath tried them, and found them worthy of himself. As gold in the furnace he hath proved them, and as a victim of a holocaust he hath received them, and in time there shall be respect had to them. The just shall shine, and shall run to and fro like sparks among the reeds. They shall judge the nations, and rule over people, and their Lord shall reign forever. They that trust in him shall understand the truth, and they that are faithful in love shall rest in him. For grace and peace is to his elect. But the wicked shall be punished according to their own devices, who have neglected the just, and have revolted from the Lord. For he that rejecteth wisdom and discipline is unhappy, and their hope is vain, and their labors without fruit, and their works unprofitable. Their wives are foolish, and their children wicked. Their offspring is cursed, for happy is the barren and the undefiled, that hath not known bed in sin. She shall have fruit in the visitation of holy souls. And the eunuch that hath not wrought iniquity with his hands, nor thought wicked things against God, for the precious gift of faith shall be given to him, and a most acceptable lot in the temple of God. For the fruit of good labors is glorious, and the root of wisdom never faileth. But the children of adulterers shall not come to perfection, and the seed of the unlawful bed shall be rooted out. And if they live long, there shall be nothing regarded, and their last old age shall be without honor. And if they die quickly, they shall have no hope, nor speech of comfort in the day of trial, for dreadful are the ends of a wicked race. And now what follows is the translation. An interview with Melid, demon of impurity. His Eminence Cardinal Corrado Ursi of Naples has pronounced that in his judgment this booklet does not contain errors. It is interesting. Publish it. Much good will come of it. Naples, 24th of May, 1984. Introduction. On November 15th, 1972, during one of his illuminating discourses, the Holy Father, Pope Paul VI, affirmed that the devil is a real presence on the earth, who is very much involved in the propagation of evil. Many of the misinformed and uninformed were up in arms over his apparent medievalism. Surely the Church does not still believe in the existence of the devil. The devil as a person does not exist. He is simply the personification of evil in general. These old sayings must be done away with. There is already a booklet entitled Interviews with the Evil One, but I thought to contribute in this delicate field as well, since for the past 50 years, 1934 to 1984, my vocation has been to perform exorcisms. I have on several occasions seen the evil spirit in human form, battled directly with it, and have been physically abused by it, having been grabbed by the neck during some of the struggles. I have been able to study the evil one, as will be manifest from this report of some encounters. Moreover, I have been and presently am the spiritual director of mystic souls who tend to attract the direct and terrible attacks of the devil. As spiritual director of these souls, I have come face to face with unimaginable situations, dozens and dozens of times. To develop the theme of this interview, I have programmed its development as an overview of my experiences. In fact, there is no other way I could have done it. Rest assured, however, that I have heard, seen, and experienced the actions summarized in the following dictations firsthand. She entangled him with many words, and drew him away with the flattery of her lips. Immediately he followeth her as an ox led to be a victim, and as a lamb playing the wanton, and not knowing that he is drawn like a fool to bonds, till the arrow pierce his liver, as if a bird should make haste to the snare, and knoweth not that his life is in danger. Proverbs chapter 7. Melid, I wish to conduct an interview with you. Through my studies and experiences, I have learned that you always have evil designs, since you have been confirmed in evil, which is to say, that you are unable to will anything but evil. I also know that although you will only evil, you are often compelled by divine providence against your will to bring about a greater good. Thus it arises that although you often tempt souls to do evil, they reject your bidding, and so enrich themselves in the gain of eternal merit. This interview is likely to do a lot of good, and so I pray to God that he may compel you to answer my queries. Very well, priest wretch, what do you ask? Footnote 1. The evil spirit addresses him as pretaccio, which cannot be translated literally. He has added a suffix to the word priest to denote wretchedness, which most closely translates to priest wretch. Do not forget that you are speaking to Melid. Tell me, how do you know that my name is Melid? You told me yourself during our first encounter several years ago. At that time there were two of you present, you and your assistant Ophar. At that time I had asked you why you were paired up, since you usually travel through the world in groups of 1, 3, or 7, and you most disrespectfully asked how I knew this. Before continuing this interview, I wish to ask you a seemingly stupid question. Melid, are you a demon, and do you exist? You ignoramus, how could I not exist? Liar, when it is convenient for you to affirm so, you say that you exist. When it is not, you inspire the opposite avowal. Once during a seance, the curious, footnote 2, curious in this context, signifies those people who participate in New Age practices despite very clear contraindications set forth by the Church. Once, during a seance, the curious invoked the soul of a dead man. It was you who spoke, and not the soul of the dead man. You told them, through the medium, that the devil does not exist and that priests teach these silly notions. Tell me, Melid, what were you before you became a demon? I was a high official of the angelic cohort, a cherub. Now I am an officer of Satan. How did you decide to leave heaven and fall into hell? Did you not know that the infernal region had been prepared? Why did you rebel against God? The Most High told me and my companions that he was going to put us to the test. He did not tell us that we were going to be punished with hell, in eternal fire, and it is fire, fire. What was the test that all the angels had to undergo? We had to accept that the Son of God was planning to incarnate, to take on human nature, and we who are of much nobler nature were told to humiliate ourselves in adoration before him. Lucifer, who was shining like the sun in the firmament, refused. If he becomes man, I will not serve. I will be superior to him. During the trial, the figure of a man appeared to us. Was the man crucified or crowned with thorns? No, he appeared to be an ordinary man. Many legions of us were of the opinion held by Lucifer. A horrible battle ensued between Michael and Lucifer, and all of a sudden, amidst a rain of fire and brimstone, we were catapulted into the infernal well. You earned a wonderful keep on that day, you unhappy rebel angel. Are you sorry for the evil done? Sorry? Never! He, the Most High, should not have humiliated himself in that manner. I hate and will always hate the Christ. It is because of him that I am in hell. He is an unjust God. I sinned only once, and because of it I was condemned to hell, whereas you, with your multitude of serious sins, can still enter into heaven, because you have that woman. Footnote 3. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. I will put enmities between thee and the woman, and thy seed and her seed. She shall crush thy head, and thou shalt lie in wait for her heel. The Virgin Mary was promised to Adam and Eve after their fall, so that the Savior could be born into the world. She was going to be the second chance of humanity, since she too, like Adam and Eve, was created with a spotless soul, not soiled by original sin. I was condemned to hell, whereas you, with your multitude of serious sins, can still enter into heaven, because you have that woman, Madonna. If only we'd had her too. How are you organized in hell? The Christ gave you some idea when he refuted the accusation that he was casting out demons through the authority of Beelzebub, saying, and if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then shall his kingdom stand? Whereas Satan's kingdom is perennial, Satan truly reigns in hell. Lucifer is the head, the despot, Though those of us who were high officials in the angelic cohort are now officials of the infernal legions. I was once a cherub, and now I am a high official of Satan's kingdom, with the most lucrative and interesting assignment, that of tempting to impurity. You demons have no need of sleep. You have no need for daily bread. Nor do you ever feel the weight of bodily fatigue. How do you pass your time? By hating God and seething with rage and jealousy against human creatures. By doing this, we should feel some pleasure, but instead, all we do is suffer all the more. Do demons always remain in the infernal pit, or can they sometimes exit it? By permission of the Most High, Lucifer is allowed to send demons throughout the world. You, as priests, know that it is impossible to understand the divine designs. Those demons that roam the world continue to suffer because they are still under the punishing hand of God. However, by roaming the world, they can obtain some relief. I think I can understand the situation from what Jesus said. When a demon leaves a man, he roams about looking for a resting place. You also, Melid, gave me to understand once during an exorcism when you asked me, "Tell me where to go, and I will go." "Go to the high seas," I said, "into the body of a fish." And you replied, "I want to enter a man." To which I added, "Why not a fish?" And you replied, "Why don't you go rest in the body of an animal?" Thus, although you demons range throughout the earth, never escaping your sentence of damnation, you do experience highs and lows and suffering. When you demons roam about the earth, you can, if God permits it, possess the body of a human. Those who are obsessed are an example of your agency. The Gospels often mention the unhappy lot of those who are obsessed. When you cannot possess a human, you turn towards animals, as you did at Gerasa in the times of Jesus when you entered the herd of swine. You can even infest the place, such as is the case when somebody has conducted a seance in the room, thus producing strange and terrifying phenomena that necessitate the administration of sacerdotal blessings. Do you have any other questions? I've only just begun. I draw your attention to a conclusion I've made as a result of the experiences obtained in dealing with obsessed men and women. Given that the human body provides you with rest, you do all that is in your power to remain in the body once you have received permission to enter it. You have several ruses to disguise your presence. First of all, you do all that is possible to not be recognized as a devil, so as not to be exorcised. You gravitate towards diseased bodies, so that caretakers tend to focus their attention towards the disease instead of the obsession. Thus, in the body of certain obsessed individuals, one can often find both the disease and an obsession. To avoid being cast out, you will feign to be a good spirit that has come to help the whole family. You hate exorcisms, and when you are found out, you try to fool the priest into thinking that religious adjurations are of no avail, hoping in this way to cause him to give up exorcism. You have used this tactic with me on a number of occasions, and I have tried not to let myself be fooled by you. Remember, Melid, that man which you had enslaved for 20 years? Every day I performed an exorcism upon him, and you resisted. I began to exorcise him twice a day, and you still resisted. Upon reaching a frequency of 3 times a day, you exclaimed, "Enough! I cannot bear this any more. I prefer to return to hell." Another one of your stratagems is to pretend to be the soul of somebody who was murdered. Remember once how I compelled you to tell me who you were, and you answered, "I am Marshal Bluetti of Palermo. I was murdered 16 years ago." As we continued to pray, however, you finally exclaimed, "Yes, I am a demon. Why do you want to cast me out? What harm am I doing to this creature?" Melid, I want to know why you devils prefer to return to hell rather than undergo exorcism. When we are in hell, the suffering is great, but during the exorcism it becomes extreme. In hell we are, as it were, far from God. During an exorcism we are close to the divinity, and the suffering augments, like being close to the mouth of a glowing furnace. The closer one gets, the greater the heat. Who could have known, Melid, that between you and me there were going to be so many dialogues, not friendly ones, but ugly and protracted battles? And what battles! I often ask myself, why does Melid follow me around day and night, tormenting me in body and in spirit? You, O demon, are very industrious in your annoyances, although I must add that, being an angel of darkness, you are more active during the night hours. Priest Stretch, it does not take too much thought to understand my behavior towards you. I work to steal souls from God, and you work to steal souls from me. You spend your life writing and distributing religious booklets that those who read end up believing. If you are so powerful, and you see me writing against you, and as I have already written 4 booklets exposing you, why do you not paralyze my hand? I cannot. The one, God, does not permit it. Remember, Melid, what you did a few months ago? I was about to get up from bed at 6 in the morning when you entered my room and grabbed me by the neck. You would have strangled me. I felt your ugly paws around my neck and other parts of my body. The struggle was violent. Demon interrupts. But you won because the Christ gave you a weapon that I cannot resist. The invocation of the blood of Christ, which you repeat constantly when I am upon you. That morning you had 2,000 books ready for shipment. That is why I attacked you. Since we are on the subject of your direct physical manifestations, I want you to explain a few circumstances that are somewhat unclear to me. On the night of May 24th, 1963, you entered my room in the form of a woman, actually an Amazon. You threw yourself at me, but I tried to resist as usual. All of a sudden, you immobilized me completely, and I was forced to submit to your assault. You know that when we are fighting, I instinctively bite your hands and arms. I can touch you with my hands, but when I proceed to bite you, my jaws clench on nothing. Why is it that I can feel you touching me and that I can touch you with my hands, but am unable to bite anything? You had the explanation to your question the same night. After the assault, you saw me in your room in human form, standing next to your bed. You studied me. You observed that I had flesh, veins, bones, etc. You got the urge to touch me, but as soon as you did, I vanished and you were left alone in the room. Although we demons are rebels, we have not lost our angelic nature, replete with intelligence that far surpasses the intelligence of any human. We know many of the secrets of nature, which enables us to assume many forms that we please. We can also cause you to see something that does not exist, hide the existence of something from you, give you sensations, or take them away. The body of the woman that you felt on top of you did not exist as such. However, it acted and felt as if it were real. Why did this assault take place on that night? To vent my rage against you, the day before you had been received by the Pope in a private audience, during which time you had the chance to confide in him. I was very disappointed. It seems to me that many of your assaults have neither rhyme nor reason. Remember, Melid, a few years ago when you attacked me in the middle of the night? You entered my room, and as usual you grabbed me around the neck, but you were unable to do much because as soon as you did, a threatening hand appeared at the head of my bed. You were forced to leave me after a couple of minutes. At the end of July in 1983, when I was at Fuji in the Santa Chiara home, why did you come to throw a hand grenade in my room? It caused a concussive explosion. This time I said, Melid has surely broken the mirror, the sink, and everything else. Instead, everything was intact. I wanted to disturb you because your daily vespertine, which means afternoon, conferences had converted some souls that I had back to Christ. Melid, there was a period of time during which your attacks were very frequent. Certainly, because at that time you were writing books almost uninterruptedly in the retreat place you had in the mountains. Every book that you wrote increased my anger, and so to counter you, I attacked you obsessively. While we were on the subject, during that time I had the desire to understand how it was that you would possess me. Jesus granted my request. One night, while I was readying myself for bed, I heard the approach of what sounded like a cyclone, preceded by an acute, high-pitched tone about 1 meter above the bed. At that moment you possessed me, and I found myself in a dark chamber. There were 3 of you, and you all had black faces. The other 2 sat down and watched the scene. It was a powerful battle that lasted for 10 minutes, since as soon as you left, I checked my watch. Melid, you annoy me to no end, and you manifest to me under many different forms, even in the streets, as you once did in the streets of this hometown, my hometown. even in the village square, you appear to me as a night watchman. I would like to know what possible advantage you hope to gain by constantly annoying me. If I am in bed, I will hear a doorbell ring under the covers. Occasionally you will appear as a crow, beating your wings powerfully and repeatedly on the headboard, or you will lie down next to me so that I hear you breathing heavily. During the day you punch me in between the shoulder blades, or you will annoy me with the sensation of a spider crawling on my face. One day you gave me the sensation of a large needle piercing my head all the way through until it reached under my chin. In fact, nothing happened to me, but I felt the pain as though it had really happened. What pleasure do you get by letting me hear your raucous voice? Priest wretch, it doesn't take much brains to understand. Since you annoy me with your various forms of apostolate, I return the favor by annoying you every way that I can. Are you not fearful of me? I can reduce you to rags. In truth, I have been tremulous on a few occasions when I sensed your presence, but it passed quickly when I realized that you are not free to do what you will. You cannot do one bit more than what God allows you to do. In fact, the times you have threatened me, I answered you, I am not afraid. If God permits it, go ahead, since you cannot do otherwise. Remember the threat you made the other night? Priest wretch, you'll see what I'm going to do to you tonight. That night, I was expecting you to show up, and you did, but you were unable to enter my room. You knocked on the door, but were kept out.